Before we start this video, I would like to talk to you about something. If you find yourself struggling with certain aspects of your art, such as coloring or line art, I would like to refer you to my Patreon. My Patreon contains all of my drawing files, so you are able to recolor, trace, or do line art over them as you please to help practice. It also contains all the brushes I use for all of my art. It costs as little as $3 a month, so you're basically kind of fucking robbing me at gunpoint with that price. If you're not really interested in art, I would also kindly appreciate it as a donation if you want to. Link is in the description below. Hey, it's me, your favorite artist you're obviously subscribed to. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to draw and color eyes. Unlike my last eye video, I am going to teach you how to draw them as well. What I am not going to do is teach you how to map them to your face or how to draw them from different perspectives in case that's what you were looking for. I'm just going to draw them on a front-facing character. Eyes are obviously very important in art. When a viewer looks at your drawing, the first thing they will obviously look at is the eyes, so it's very important to make them look as amazing as possible. Eyes are also a very good way to distinguish your art from others. The way you draw and color eyes are a staple to your art style, so make sure they're colored in a way that defines you as an artist. If a viewer were to see your art, they should instantly recognize that it's your drawing by the way the eyes are colored. And don't take that too seriously, I'm just basically telling you to make your eyes look special. Anyways, now that we understand the importance of eyes, let's get on with it. So the first thing we're going to do is plan the eye. So when planning the structure of your character's eyes, think about what shape you would like to use. Shapes are very useful for creating variety in your character's eyes, and they can give off a strong personality based on what you want. For example, triangles like this one show fierceness and anger. Using rhombuses or like any other parallelogram like that, rectangles or squares can give off more of a neutral look, and circles or circular shapes like circles, ovals, whatever, can give off happy and friendly looks. Using the same eye shape for every single one of your characters can lead to the same face syndrome, which I guess isn't necessarily bad, but viewers will get tired of looking at your characters if there's not really a variety between them. For this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and stick with an almond shape. This is a pretty standard shape that I use for a lot of my characters. So after you choose what shape you want, you're going to want to sketch out the lines that will dictate the base of your eye. Basically, do not add eyelashes or anything, just draw the simplest lines that form the shape of your eye. So I am going to take my sketching brush, I'm going to pick that color. I'm going to set this to like a light blue so I can see where I'm drawing, and yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and sketch the lines I'm going to be using. So I'm gonna use that for my top part of the eye. This is gonna be the corner of my eye, and it's optional to add the lower part of the eye. It's not required, but I personally like doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the bottom of the eye. I'm gonna make sure these also line up better. So, yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, pretty basic. So that is basically the base of her eye. So after that, next you're going to want to thicken the lines to your preferred width. This is to help make your character's eyes feel fuller, kind of like mascara, eyeliner in a sense. I don't know what term it is, I don't wear makeup. So I usually really like to make my top lines really thick. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of pick how wide I want this, and then I'm gonna make sure that it connects nice and well with the other corners of my eyes. Okay, so now that I have the base of my eye, this is part of my style. You can skip this if you want to, but I'm going to do it. I like to take my smudge tool and I like to go back and forth between this edge of the eye. It gives it more of a softer feel, I think. Like in my head, it makes the eye feel more soft. So I'm going to do that for like this part right here. And then I'm also going to do that same thing where the bottom eye and the edge of this part connect. So I'm going to make it look like I'm going to stroke a line like I'm making them connect. So like that. I'm also going to do it at the edge of this right here, this line right here. I'm going to do that same thing. And in my head, it makes it look more smooth. So I do like to do that. It's part of my style. You don't have to do it, but it is part of my style. Okay, now that we have this, now this is the fun part. we're gonna draw eyelashes. And there's not really a set pattern of where you want to draw eyelashes. This is just usually where you prefer them to be. Now, it is very important to not make these eyelashes angled in the same direction. And what I mean by that is like this. Because that looks very flat, boring, and not dynamic. So make sure they're pointing out in different directions, like a bunch of points, like a bunch of lines coming out of a circle. And what I mean by that is something like this. You want these to be pointing in different directions. Now remember, this is where like eyelashes are super stylistic. You can put them wherever you want. I'm going to show you where I like to put mine. So now there's usually two types of eyelashes that I like doing. There's thick ones, like super thick that are filled in like this. And then there's like quick stroke ones. I use them interchangeably. And I'm going to show you right now where I usually place where. So right here, I usually place a quick small stroke of an eyelash. So usually when I stroke, I'm doing it like this. I know I tell you not to make your lines like this, but for eyelashes, it's fine. Next, I like to do 3 big eyelashes. Now, one eyelash I like to place is one that goes like this way, following this curvature of the eye. So what I do first is that I sketch a line that smoothly follows the top curve of the head, like that. And then I'm going to make another line that goes like that, that's concave, and then I'm going to fill it in. And then after this, I feel like it looks a little blurry, so I like to sharpen it out by picking the transparent color and kind of just sharpening the eyelash in a sense. And that's the first major eyelash I do. The other 2 eyelashes I like to place before this huge eyelash. So I usually put one right there and right there. So I'm going to make a big eyelash that points this way. So I'm going to make the outline of the eyelash and then I'm going to fill it in. And then once I get done with that, I'm going to take the transparency tool and I'm going to sharpen the eyelash. Just like that. And now I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to do it right here. And then I'm going to fill it in. And then I'm going to erase it to sharpen it. I'm also going to make it a little bit more smaller because I feel like it's pointing out too far out. So I'm going to sharpen it like that. Okay, now that we have our 2 major eyelashes, there's this other type of eyelash that I like to do called, which is what I'm going to call it, an empty eyelash. Now, empty eyelashes are basically just like eyelashes that I outline, but I do not fill in. So basically like this. As you can see, I just created 2 strokes of an eyelash, connected them, and it's one eyelash, and it's not filled in. I usually do these because they're supposed to look subtle, and so I usually just don't fill them in. I also feel like it's a little empty here, so I'm also going to add a quick eyelash, just a small eyelash like that, nothing too major. So now that we fully gave the top lid eyelashes, let's move on to the bottom eyelash. Now, some people don't give the bottom eyelid eyelashes, and that's fine, but I'm going to do that. So there are 2 types of eyelashes I like to do for the bottom eyelid. I do curved eyelashes like this that are just a single stroke, and I also do the same thing but with empty eyelashes, so something like that. So usually I start off by drawing an empty eyelash pointing out the bottom eyelid, and then I go on from here. So I'm going to do a small stroke of so I'm going to do a small stroke right here, and then I'll do one more empty eyelash right here, and then a stroke of an eyelash right here. Also, please keep in mind the angle in which you're drawing these bottom eyelashes. When you're looking at a curved line from straight ahead, it's going to appear skinnier, and when it's angled down, it's going to look like an upside down hook. So remember when you're drawing these bottom eyelashes that you're doing like hook kind of strokes like that. The same thing with these top eyelashes. The more farther out that the eyelash goes, the more it's gonna you know, look elongated. So this eyelash right here is a little short like that. Then this one is a little bit longer. And then this last eyelash is all the way out. I'm just going to add the eyelid, which is basically just the same angled stroke as this top eyelid. So it's not that hard. So now let's draw the pupil. For the pupil, you can pretty much pick any shape you want. I mean, go crazy. You can use a goddamn star or anything, you know? But for this tutorial, I'm going to do something pretty simple. So just like a circular shape. So first, what you're gonna want to do is draw a thin outline of the eye shape that you want. One tip I want to give you is when you're drawing front-facing eyes, never ever draw the pupils like this, because this makes them look cross-eyed. A lot of beginners tend to do that, and it makes sense because it looks like they're looking in front of you, but in reality, they're like looking this way. They're like cross-eyed. So always remember that you want to always draw like the pupil in like a little bit in the middle of the eye, never on the edge of the eye, all right? That just makes them look cross-eyed. So now that we have the thin line art for the eye, I'm gonna go ahead and thicken the part where it touches the eyelid. Now this is just basically standard line art rules that you pretty much thicken anywhere where it intersects with something else. So yeah, just remember that. I'm gonna thicken where it touches the eyelid. And that's it. That's how you draw an eye. Let's give her some eyebrows, I guess, just so she doesn't look eyebrowless. I'm just gonna do something pretty simple, just so it doesn't look uncanny. So now we're gonna get on to coloring. Now this is the fun part. This is literally the part that I love the most. I love coloring. So first, let's dictate what our color schemes will be. So my base color is, let's say, a pink, okay? Remember, when you're picking color schemes, you want to go down and you want to change the hue a little bit. Now, what changed from my last video is now I just don't change the hue and the value. I also make it a little bit more saturated, and that helps with making like the colors, you know, very vibrant. And that's kind of something that changed over the years. So now every time I pick a shading color, remember, go down a little bit in hue, go down in value, and go a little bit more saturated. And just keep doing that until you have a good color scheme. So I'm going to keep doing that until I hit black. And yeah, see right there, a really cool color scheme. And that works with any color. So let's say we were doing, you know, something like this color, turquoise. We're going to put that down, go a little bit down in the hue, go a little bit down in value, and go a little bit more saturated. And you keep doing that until you get your color scheme. And just like that, super easy way to get a very vibrant, cool color scheme. So let's erase that. So that's going to be basically my pupils. Okay, so something I do is that I color the eyelashes. That's not really a special thing that I do, but it's part of my style. Now, this is usually a different color from the line art that I choose. So I usually go with something dark and blue. So like I'm going to pick like a dark blue right here, and we are going to overlay the color. I'm going to go maybe a little bit lighter, a little bit more unsaturated, something like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a shading brush and I'm going to take a light gray. Okay, so now I'm going to, since I have my light gray, I'm going to go ahead and shade all of this top up here, this gray color. And then I'm going to re-black my pupils, and then I'm going to try to make it so that I get a perfect stroke that copies the curvature of the eye. Okay, so this is probably good enough. So you're going to want to leave a little bit less than half of black right here. And basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to highlight the eyelash in a sort of way that makes them look more three-dimensional. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the dark color and I want to visualize this somehow. I'm going to shade this eyelash so it kind of looks like this kind of shape. Something like that. And then we're going to make them look three-dimensional by also shading them in a way that, so this eyelash looks like this. And then this eyelash looks like this. So this is just part of my style. I like to 3D shade my eyelashes. So this is the kind of like shape that we're going for. So I'm going to go ahead and get my shading brush, pick the dark color, and now I'm going to shade the front face of it black. Like this. Oh, I gotta do that. Where is the layer? Okay. So I'm gonna shade it in a way that makes it look like these shapes. So I'm gonna cut off, I'm gonna add the outline that I'm going to fill in, and then I'm gonna fill it in. And then I'm gonna do the last thing for this one. I'm gonna do the line and then just fill it in. I'm gonna go back and kind of restroke a little bit, and just like that, we made the eyelashes look 3D. I'm gonna go ahead, get my blur tool, and just blur the edges a little bit, all right? Not too much that it looks like super just fucked up, but just a little bit. And then since my blur tool isn't symmetrical, I gotta do the same to the other side. And just like that, we made our eyelashes look three-dimensional. I should have probably mentioned this earlier, but I recommend doing this on another layer in case you want to change the color. But I kind of fucked up and did it on the same layer. So just for next time, if you do this next time, do it on a different layer and then clip it to the eyelash layer. Don't be an idiot like me and do it on the same layer. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take an airbrush tool, get the dark color, and just slightly go in the middle with that color, like that. To make it look a little bit more 3D-ish, we're gonna just take the dark color and just in the middle, just go down like that. So that in the middle, it's the most dark, and then on the edges, it's really light. And then lastly, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna take the dark color, and all we're gonna do is quote unquote erase like the edges of here. So I'm gonna go ahead with a Lineart tool, and I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of erase the edge of it. And this is to make it look like it's line arted, which it's just part of my style. You don't have to do this, but since we're doing it in my style, I want it to look a little bit line arted. And just like that, we are good to go. So see, it makes it look a little bit line arted. That's kind of what I'm going for. Okay, now this time I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to take the base color, or either one of these colors is fine. I'm going to get my shading tool, and I'm going to add a stroke of that color on the bottom. Now I recommend actually doing this one on a new layer because it's kind of hard. Okay, now that I have a perfect line, I'm going to then kind of make a triangle following the same general shape as this one. And I'm going to fill it in a little bit. And I'm also going to do the same here. I'm going to make it go down here. And then I'm going to make it more... I'm going to add a little bit more opacity just because I'm going to change it right when I'm done. Okay. So that's pretty much good enough because I'm going to erase what I don't need anyways. So now I'm going to get my Lineart tool, and I'm going to, just like how we erased this one on the edge of it, I'm going to erase this inside of this face right here. So the face that is facing us, that's where I'm going to erase it. And I'm going to make sure that it follows the perspective. And then I'm going to erase the edges too. So I'm going to erase right here. I'm going to erase where the edge is right here as well. And then I'm going to erase the bottom edge. So that it looks like this. And then I'm gonna fix it a little right here because I kind of screwed it up right here. It is not right here. I'm gonna erase it. I'm gonna fill this back in. Okay, I'm also gonna blur it a little. Maybe like slightly right there. Do the same on the other side because my tool is not symmetrical. I'm gonna find what layer style probably looks the best on it. Probably just regular normal. And then I'm gonna lower the opacity where it's slightly, you can slightly see it. And this, it adds more to like the 3D-ness of it, because now it looks like a reflected lighting, and now it looks like reflected lighting. And so, bam, you can see that we made our eyelashes look very 3D-ish. I'm gonna try to go back and make my eye look a little bit more dark, just because I'm kind of sad that it does look light blue. I kind of want it to look more black. So without fucking it up, I'm probably just gonna go over and make it seem more black. So now, this is also just part of my style. I'm now gonna make a new normal layer. Usually when I have like a skin background, I like to take like a gross orange color and kind of just overlay that color on the edges of the eye. And that's because it feels like the eyelash is blending in more with the skin, so like the eye is a part of the skin. It's just something small I do. I thought I might as well share it, but you don't have to do that. And then on the ends of the eyelash, I also like to grab the base color of our iris and just go over like that. Just to make it look a little bit more shiny. You can add, you can give it a layer effect. I usually don't. I just kind of make it the same layer effect. Or let me see hard light. Actually, I might make it a hard light. And I'm just going to do that a little bit. So now those are our eyelashes, and now I'm done adding effects to them. That's it. That's all I'm gonna do. So now let's move on to the sclera and the iris. I think it's called the sclera. So I'm going to make a new folder, and then with black, I'm going to draw where the sclera is and ends. Because since you can't really see with white, usually I fill it in with black first. I then blur like the edges of it, and then I go back and overlay white. So now I know where the sclera is. Just like that. And then something pretty easy, all you're just gonna do is fill in your eyes and erase where the fill tool decided to fuck up at. And okay. Now that we have that, it's time to color in our irises. Now, there is plenty of ways you can do this, all right? Remember, this is based on your style and how you want it. I'm going to show you what I do. It's a common pattern that I do, and I believe it's pretty easy. So let's lock the alpha-ness on this thing. And what I first do is fill it in with the second coloring layer, or the first shading color. I grab the base shading color and then I add a circle that extends to about halfway to the eye. So something like that. So now I'm gonna add a little oval that's going to represent our, I think this is pupil. Just like that. And then stylistically, I'm going to take my basic brush and add just like a little whoop, a little circle that hangs out in the middle of the base color. And then I'm gonna once again just kind of make it so that the bottom is shaded, the second shading color. Okay, now I'm gonna grab my second shading color and I'm just gonna go over this part right here. I'm gonna outline where I'm going to fill in with the shading color, and then I'm going to fill it in. I'm gonna kind of clean up the shape a little bit right here. And then I'm basically gonna keep doing that until I reach black, because nothing really changes until I reach black. So I'm gonna once again, this color, line where I'm gonna fill, and I fill it in. And then I'm gonna clean it up a little, and then that looks about fine. And then lastly, we get to black, or like pretty much what would be black, and we're gonna do it once again, the same thing. Okay, I'm now gonna take my blur tool and then I'm gonna blur, actually, I'm not gonna take like, what color eyelash? Okay, wait. I'm now gonna fix this color mixing right here by adding the second to last shading color. Then I'm gonna smudge it a little bit on the edges. And I'm gonna do the same on this side because my smudge tool is not symmetrical. I'm not gonna blur it because blurring it basically makes it look like kind of weird. So this is what happens when you blur it. It kind of looks like the color just like don't mix together very well. So that's why I'm using my smudge tool right now. Now I'm going to take my second shading color and I'm going to fill right here kind of. I'm gonna add like a little trapezoid right here and the same on the other side. And then I'm gonna take my base color and basically what I'm doing is erasing the sides. So it looks more like a straighter shape. Just like that. I also want to clean this part up a little bit. Basically what I'm doing right now is trying to clean up the shape of the eye. So I'm going to clean it up a little bit. And yeah, it looks pretty decent. And now lastly, I'm going to take my rough shading brush, or hold up, sorry, my shading brush, and then I'm going to create a little U, extend the base color a little bit more up, and then smudge where it goes inside, like that. Smudge it back and forth. And then I'm gonna try to reinforce the oval shape of the pupil a little bit. And then lastly, I'm gonna take the second to last shading color and just make a little oval like this. And then I'm gonna take a very dark black color, circle around the basic, or circle, like make a circle around the pupil. And then I'm gonna blur it just a little bit so where it looks a little cloudy. Like that. Okay, so that's pretty much the base of the iris. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit because it looks like it's a little too wobbly right now for some reason. So I'm just gonna... So you think it might look a little plain right now, and that's fine because we're not at the important part yet. This is pretty much the base of the iris. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and make a clipping layer on the sclera and iris. So I put them in a folder. We're gonna take a black color, like probably like this, but a little bit more darker, a little bit more dark. And then we're gonna make a line like that. This is going to be the shadow of our eye. So we're gonna set this to multiply, and then I'm gonna take my blur brush, wherever it is, and then I'm only going to blur in the middle. So kind of like that. And I'm gonna keep like, I'm gonna keep like the hard edges on the edge. So I'm gonna blur mostly in the middle, but I'm gonna keep these hard edges. And then I'm gonna edit the multiply later so it's like to where I want it. So I want it about, oh wait, I need to do the same to the other side. So I want it about right there. And I feel like I want to increase the saturation on it. So that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, that is pretty much to where I want the multiply layer to be. This looks a little weird to me, so I might thicken the outline of the eye. I don't remember where I put the line art for my eye. I'm gonna make the line art for my eye like probably pretty much black. Because I do not know why, but it looks weird when it's not black. And then I'm gonna make it a little bit more thicker. So I'm gonna turn back on my symmetry tool. So I'm gonna just kind of make the eye a little bit more thicker just so it looks right. Because to me, it doesn't look that right. Okay, now completely black looks weird to me, so now I'm just gonna change the color a little bit on the bottom. And okay, that looks probably better. So now this is time for like the special effects of the eyes. So make them look pretty, make them look good and whatnot. So usually first what I do is that I get a glow dodge layer. I take the base color, I take an airbrush tool, and I kind of push a little bit down hard, like right here, to make it look, to make like the eye glow more. I also like check like different colors to see which one probably looks the best. So I'm gonna probably stick with like a red one like this. I'm going to make it probably glow dodge. I'm just checking the other ones. Yeah. And I'm gonna change the opacity a little bit. So now the eye glows a little bit more. I'm now gonna make a new normal layer, and then I'm gonna take a shading brush. I'm gonna take the base color, and now I'm gonna do probably a shape about like that. I'm gonna change this layer to add glow and make it to what I think is best. And this is to add like a layer of reflectiveness to my eye. I'm also gonna probably raise this up a little bit. This is to give the eye a sense of like reflection. And then I'm gonna blur like probably the middle of it, but not the edges. I'm gonna keep the hard edges and just blur the middle of it. And this is to make the eye feel more reflective. Probably gonna do something like about like right there. I'm also gonna maybe increase the multiply a little bit. So like about there. Okay. And the last thing I do is that I make a new layer. I clip it. I make it a normal layer. And then I'm going to take off the symmetry tool before I do reflections, because when you're drawing reflections, they face the same way. They don't change, like their orientation doesn't change based on which eye you're drawing it on. So I'm going to make a shape like this on both sides of the eye. Since this eye is kind of angled in a different way, it's kind of hard to like see how this should be. So maybe I'll do something like that for this eye. That's weird. Okay, something about like that. So I do this, and then I'm going to erase two lines just like this to have like sort of like a window effect, kind of. So then I'm gonna change this to add glow, and then I'm gonna change this percentage to what I feel like looks the best. So usually I have it at like 9 or 10. Something really subtle, but like something that looks nice. I also might change this color to like a light pink, maybe. And then let me see what it looks like when it's a little bit Gaussian blurred. Oh, it's not gonna work. Okay. I'm gonna Gaussian blur it a little bit. So I'm gonna Gaussian blur a little bit, and then maybe decrease the value. Alright, let's see what it looks like when it's really pink. Nah. Let's do like this color. Okay, that looks pretty good. Actually, I might change it just to... Damn, I don't know what color I want. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. So yeah, now the eye looks a little bit more reflective, and it just looks pretty nice. So now this is probably the part that everyone likes, and it's the eye shinies, which I call them. I call them eye shinies. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make an add glow layer, and then I'm going to take a certain brush that I have that is called highlights. Now this is like a very skinny brush that I like to use. So when you're drawing these highlights, make sure that they're facing the same way. So like for example, if I draw one right here, it has to also be right here. It's not gonna be right here. It's gonna also be right here. So this is a pretty standard pattern that I go for. I put a very saturated light blue above the pupil. I'm going to put a base colored one on the bottom of the pupil, and then I'm going to get a white, and then I'm going to probably add like a little ball of light right here. Yeah, that looks about good. And then I'm going to add like a ray of light maybe in the corner of the eye. Just like that. Yeah. I don't really go over with like the eye shinies just because like I don't prefer to. I like to keep it simple usually. But you know, I mean, if you want to, you can go all out on it, or you can keep it simple like I did here. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you completely. I want to add a little bit more reflection, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a glow dodge. I'm gonna take a base colored. I'm gonna get a shading brush, and then I might just make a random little circle. Let's see what this looks like. Nah, that one looks kind of weird. Let's see what add glow looks like. So I'm gonna do like a little ray of light like this. And then I'm gonna lower the opacity and see how that looks. I don't know, I don't really like it. Maybe I'll change the color to be pink. Yeah, pink looks better. So yeah, when you're adding like the shinies and like the flare to the eyes, you're usually gonna play around with a lot, just because, like, you know, this is probably the most fun part of the eye. I feel like anyone could agree with. So yeah, so just play around with the eye details, play around with like the things I showed you, see what works best for you. I'm gonna add a little line art effect right here, and then lastly, I'm going to add probably a dot of an add glow layer about right here. What color probably looks best? Probably this color right here. I'm gonna add a little circle right here and just blur the top of it. And then I'm gonna lower its opacity, just so it's a little bit noticeable. So yeah, that's usually the effect I go for. I'm going to go ahead and kind of edit the shape of these, just because I want them to be a little bit thinner. So yeah, now you have a nice pair of nice looking eyes. I'm going to show you what I was trying to reference. This was a pair of eyes that I drew yesterday. These ones look a little nicer to me, but that's only because I had my complete focus. These ones I was drawing with like speaking and making sure that I was teaching everything correctly. But I do think these ones turned out a little bit better. So yeah, but I did follow pretty much the same exact process. Wow, they do look very different, but yeah. I was happier, of course, with these eyes, but these ones are also very nice looking, so yeah. Thank you for watching. Hope you liked this video. I hope it helped you kickstart how to draw eyes. I hope I showed you how to color eyes very nicely. And so yeah, subscribe to my YouTube, check out my Patreon for my brushes, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.